You're listening to Prosperity Report, Love and Money Podcast, the relationship podcast that helps you feel more confident financially and romantically. We do this by giving you actionable ideas to help you stop comparing and start repairing your mindset, your money, your relationship, and your life. I'm your host, Kanae Corder, best-selling author, international speaker, hypnotherapist, and financial therapist. Let's grow with the flow together. Enjoy the show. Before we get into today's show, I'd like to ask you a question. Do you want to feel more confident personally and financially? Then take my free masterclass, A Wealth of Confidence. You'll learn to reduce stress and increase wealth with confidence. You'll get a great understanding of your idea of prosperity. You'll learn your money mentality or your money personality. And that way you can reduce the stress in your life. You can increase the wealth in your life because you're going to get actionable tools and resources that you can start using immediately to transform your life. So take my free masterclass, A Wealth of Confidence. Go to KanaeCorder.com/wealth. That's KanaeCorder.com/wealth and get a wealth of confidence. Reduce stress and increase wealth in your life so you can reach your idea of prosperity. So now let's get into today's show. Well, hey there, my Prosperos. We are coming to you live from Serenity House, Sonoya, where I am about to interview Natalie Kohlhaas from Serenity Treehouse. For our show today, we are continuing with our Mental Health Awareness Month. Today, we're going to talk about anxiety. Our guest today is an expert in anxiety. Natalie has been in the mental health field for almost 25 years, and she brings such a great knowledge and insight. She specializes in hypnotherapy, brain spotting, and cognitive behavioral therapy. She is a supervisor. She teaches continuing education classes to other therapists, and she works with teenagers and adults who are experiencing anxiety. What's so awesome about Natalie is that even though she's been in this business for so many years, she is open-minded, still learning, and she not only teaches newer therapists, but she also learns from them. And I think that's so fascinating. So guys, please join me in welcoming our guest today, Natalie Kohlhaas. Hey, Natalie.
Hello, Kanae. Thank you for having me here. Looking forward to our talk.
Yes, thank you for coming, because when I think of anxiety, I think of you.
Yay! As strange as that sounds, that makes me happy.
So I wanted to have a conversation about anxiety, mainly to get an understanding of what anxiety really is. But before we go there, as you know, I start every episode with the question, what is your idea of prosperity?
For me, the first thing that I think about when I hear the word prosperity is a sense of wealth and money. Mm-hmm. And so I find that I kind of dip into that, but I also notice then it begins to expand. So even though I start there, I really begin to assess, well, yes, that's what that means. But for me, I recognize it actually means a lot more than that. For me, it would be an abundance that is a sense of connection. Mm-hmm. So feeling that sense of connection to those people around me, feeling that sense of connection with my family, feeling a sense of connection with my community. And of course, most importantly, is finding that own internal sense of connection with myself.
And a lot of times we don't always equate prosperity inward.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
A lot of times it's about a lot of outward.
Everything that's outside of us. Right. Exactly. A lot of my sense of in a relationship has definitely come from the work that I have done and my own work, but also the blessings that I have received when I work with each person. It's just a huge piece for me.
Yeah. So then I also hear you saying that prosperity is some of your life's work, and you get prosperity from your life's work.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that is what a lot of people are kind of striving for, that wanting to have that connection you talked about with purpose, with community, and with ourselves. That's awesome.
But I also recognize that it wasn't me.
Right.
I did not do that.
Yeah.
They did that.
Yeah, you just created the space for that to happen.
Correct.
Which many of us don't have, which is why therapy exists, why therapists exist, because that space is not always there. You don't always have someone, one, that could be a sounding board, two, that is going to call you on your stuff, because that's part of what therapy is. It's like, wait.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then also that accountability. And then it almost is like opening up and showing the other options. So the two of us both practice hypnotherapy. And one of the ways that I describe hypnotherapy is that it allows the brain to see the other options.
Yes.
And I feel like that's a lot of times why we continue to repeat the same patterns, because we didn't even know there was another option. At least the brain didn't know. Consciously, we kind of know, but then subconsciously we're like, but I'm taking this road.
Yes.
So, but I know hypnotherapy is one of the modalities you use.
For me, I have three main ones that I use for anxiety. And as you said, hypnotherapy, the brain spotting, and then also doing your traditional cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yes. Okay. Well, so let's look at, I guess, all three, starting with hypnotherapy. How does hypnotherapy affect anxiety?
I love hypnotherapy, particularly when working with anxiety. Anxiety and trauma often go very hand in hand. Mm-hmm. And one of the amazing aspects of hypnotherapy is allowing your brain to get to a place where, number one, you can feel calm. You can feel completely and totally in control. Mm-hmm. You can have a sense of being relaxed. And then you can reach for what it feels like when your body goes into its fear place. That anxiety comes up very, very high. And then you can just bring it right back down. Mm-hmm. So using the hypnotherapy as a teaching technique is extremely valuable. Most people who have anxiety have the misconception that once the anxiety is there, they've completely lost control.
Yeah.
Now, when you're doing it with hypnotherapy, you allow the person to bring up that anxiety, and then you have them bring it right back down. And then they can bring it right back up, and then they can bring it right back down. And the more you go back and forth in doing that, at some point you start to recognize, I can do this. Yeah. I actually can do this.
Yeah. I am doing this.
I am doing this.
Right.
And it, as you were saying a little bit, kind of referring earlier to those habits that form, mm-hmm. Those habits typically are centered around what we call a belief system.
Yes.
And so if the belief is that I'm going to have these feelings and these emotions and I have no control over them, then of course that increases the fear and the anxiety and just pushes it farther and farther. Mm-hmm. So working with hypnotherapy allows a client to begin to reestablish a new belief, what I call updating your belief system.
Yes.
So you now find a belief that works for you rather than one that worked for you in the past but no longer works for you currently in the present.
Yeah.
We now know that the brain, and this is going to sound kind of strange, but we know that the brain does not differentiate as to whether or not we're actually experiencing something or just thinking about doing something.
Yeah, I love that about the brain.
Yeah, the brain fires exactly in the same way.
Yeah.
There's no difference between the two. So getting to a place where you can get down and access some of those emotions and those feelings with hypnotherapy allows the brain to fire as though that situation is occurring, but you know it's not. And that allows a complete reorganization right there about your belief.
Yes.
It provides you a way to have a different type of perspective.
So before we go on to brain spotting, I want to kind of recap what you said there. I said hypnotherapy is like letting the brain know it has other options and that you don't have to keep repeating the same pattern. And then you talked about how the brain is this fascinating place where imagination and reality are the same thing.
Yes.
We're having some feeling, sometimes that's anxiety, but we're having some feeling that go along with that imagination, but not knowing that one, we have some control over that, but two, that is happening to the brain as if it's still happening. So something that happened to us when we were a kid, the brain sees that as a continuation. It's not ended yet. The story hasn't ended. The movie's not over.
Exactly. And this is where people will often get stuck in what we call loopy thinking. And people will recognize this of, I just keep thinking the same thing over and over and over again. This is where we get worry, right?
Yes.
Concern. I just get stuck in a loop. It is almost the same thing where you hear a song over and over and over and over and over and over in your head, and it just keeps playing and playing and playing and playing. You're like, oh my gosh, it's stuck. That just keeps getting stuck over and over again. We do get stuck in these loops.
Yeah.
And what I challenge people to notice is when you do hear that song playing over and over again, I want you to recognize you're probably not hearing the entire song. You're probably hearing one part of the song. Maybe it's the refrain, maybe it's a couple words, and it just keeps looping that little section. The entire song is not more than likely playing all the way through.
Nice.
And one of the ways you can disengage your brain from getting stuck in that loop is to go all the way through to the very end. And if you can't go all the way through with the song, at least go and just sing the very last part of the song to yourself, because our brains always want to complete.
Ah, yes.
Our brains are looking to complete. And when we've had trauma as a youth and it is getting stuck in that trauma and we're responding to it over and over again, or we're responding to that worry over and over again, we are stuck in one of those loops and our brain is looking for a way to complete it.
Right.
But it doesn't know which direction to go in. And this is, as you said, we want to create options. We want to create opportunity for the brain to go in whatever direction it needs to do so it can actually complete it.
Yeah. So you described brain spotting as similar to hypnotherapy for anxiety. Talk a little bit about brain spotting.
So when I first started doing the training for brain spotting, I originally had wanted to do some EMDR training. And some individuals may know what that is. Right now, that's one of the hallmark treatments that are out there for people who have trauma. Brain spotting is actually what I call the 2.0 version. It's actually gentler with the brain. It came from EMDR. And so now when they do studies with the two side by side, what they are finding is we get much better results that are longer lasting when someone does something that's called brain spotting rather than doing the EMDR. They're both wonderful therapeutic techniques, but just the science that's coming out right now is showing that the brain spotting actually holds longer and you get quicker resolve with it. Now, I always preface when I talk about brain spotting with individuals of letting people know that if it were me, I would not have called it brain spotting because the name itself makes everybody go, you're going to do what to my brain? And so I just want everybody to know it is just a technique that is used. We are not actually doing anything to your brain. The reason that it is called brain spotting is we know that the way our brains are organized, I visualize it as files in our brains, that we all have these little files of information that are in our brains. And when we have to find information that is long-term information, and our brain categorizes anything that's over 24 hours as considered long-term. So if we have anything that's over 24 hours and you have to try to pull that information up, again, I want everyone to notice that you will probably see that you do this, and we probably don't even recognize we do it until it's pointed out. But if someone were to say, okay, so what did you do last Wednesday and what did you have for dinner? What a person would do is they would probably look around with their eyes for a while, trying to think about what did I do last Wednesday and what was I eating? And then as soon as we come across that information, we will know.
Yeah.
So what we have done is we have looked with our eyes to find the spot that is inside of our brain that holds that file of information. This is why we call it a brain spot. It is a spot that's in our brain where that file is being held.
Yeah.
And we utilize our eyes. The reason we use our eyes are actually part of our brain. When we are formed inside our mother's wombs, the eyes are actually brain tissue that then come off of the brain itself, and then the skull forms around it. So the eyes are actually made up of brain matter. It is the one part of our brain that's on the outside of our skull. And that is why we use our eyes to look inside our own brains to find that information.
Nice. I like that explanation. But that really clears it up because the name is a little intimidating, I think. Yeah, but the technique itself is so non-invasive. Like it probably is, to me, a great therapy for somebody like me who is strong, you know, and like, it's cool. I'll get through it. Like whatever it is, it's in the past. You know, I can.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And there's so much protection that we have within our systems, right? Of things need to be addressed, things need to be done. I can get through this.
Exactly. And I am the type of person, and I know there are we both see many people like this, get this like really strong outer shell. And it's like, let me go into focus mode. Like I'll focus on work, or I'll focus on the task that needs to be handled. In this case, a funeral, I'll just focus on the planning, you know, that kind of thing. Put the emotions in the back. I feel like brain spotting is a really good technique for people who know how to do that really well. So to have a technique that can just go right there to your brain and pull it for you. I think hypnotherapy is really awesome for that as well. But brain spotting, it does it in a way that, to me, doesn't allow you to have to know where to go.
Yes.
Yeah, it kind of guides you, and
very similar to the hypnotherapy.
Yeah.
Particularly in the way that both hypnotherapy and brain spotting are actually working on the subcortex of the brain rather than the neocortex of our brain, the new part of your brain. And that part of the brain is taking in all the information from the outside world. We do all of our thinking that's from that piece that comes in, all the sights, the sounds, the sensations, all of that. We take that in all day long. And then the subcortex is the part that houses all of that information and puts it all together and tries to make sense of it. That is the part of our brain where we have emotions.
Yeah.
So people will often come in and they say, well, I know that, and I'm trying to think that, but I don't feel that way. Right.
Yes.
And so what we're looking for is them to get some type of concordance between what they're thinking and what they're feeling. Brain spotting and hypnotherapy, this is why I feel they're so very similar. They both work in allowing us to access that subcortex of the brain. Another way to think of it is having our conscious mind and our unconscious mind.
Yeah. I was going to talk about that. Actually have you explain it. Hypnotherapy, brain spotting do a good job of aligning those two. But I think you do a really good job of explaining the brain, where things are happening, so people understand that you don't have to be a neuroscientist to understand what your brain is doing, because some of this is just your brain. It's not you.
It's just not you.
Yeah.
So I have I call it my saber-toothed tiger speech.
Yes.
That I do. And I have found that so many people who are experiencing anxiety know what is happening, but really don't know what is happening to them. And getting that sense of that understanding of what is going on in my brain, what is happening in my body, and recognizing that really your brain and your body are doing every single thing that they possibly can to protect you rather than to hurt you, which is what sometimes it feels like. Like, why is my brain working against me right now? Why is it doing this to me? Instead, getting an understanding of that, I think that is very, very powerful. So that you can begin that alignment that starts
because
happening.
You're saying anxiety is not the enemy. The brain is not the enemy. In fact, these are your allies and they're doing their jobs. They just don't know that this is not the time for the job.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So tell more about that. Yes.
Okay. So I want everyone for a moment to just imagine that we are going on a journey together. So it's me, it's Kanae, it's you. We are going all the way back into time. Far, far back into time, all the way to caveman time. Now, here we are back in our beautiful, lovely little cave that we have. We've kept it so nice and neat. We've rolled our rock out of the way. We're looking out and oh my gosh, it is a beautiful day. Things have maybe been cold in the past or the rain has been, but today is beautiful. And so we decide, today is the perfect day to go out and gather some of those berries that are starting to go and bloom over there a little bit farther away from our cave. So we head on out, we go through the trees, we go through the forest, we start going on over, we get to the bushes, and then past the bushes is this big, gigantic field. Waving golden grass, swaying in the breeze, big, beautiful, puffy clouds in the sky, butterflies going, all kinds of beautiful berries.
Yes, just an all beautiful scene.
It's so lovely. So we're there, we're gathering our berries. And in fact, because it's so beautiful, there's other individuals that have also come out and they're gathering berries as well. And we're all there getting our berries. Now, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we hear this noise. Now, this was a really strange noise. This was not the kind of noise where, maybe somebody bumped into a bush or something. It was not a right noise, okay? This is a noise that just made all of us just stop for a second, and we all stop and we look at each other. And we're listening and listening, trying to decide, what was that? Is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? We're trying to make this decision. Now, Kanae, myself, and you, we're those people who say, I don't know. That didn't sound so right. Maybe we should go back to the cave, okay? We're the kind of people who are possibly going to think, worst case scenario. Right? We're like, I think I got enough berries. Let's head on back. So we start gathering our stuff together and we're going to head back to the cave. Now, the other people that are there are like, the sky is blue. The clouds are puffy. There's butterflies. Oh, it's all lovely. And they just keep on going. They wander out into the field. No worries whatsoever, right?
And if I'm honest, that's usually the group that I'm with, but I'm so glad I'm with you guys now.
But you're with me right
Exactly.
now, okay? So we're like, I don't quite know. And we're getting our stuff together and we're starting to head out and, oh my gosh, there it is again. We turn around and we look and we're looking out across this big field and there in the distance is a saber-toothed tiger. Now, we see this tiger. We look at each other and we're like, we are getting the heck out of here. We are not sticking around. And we immediately, heart rate goes boom, 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 boom. Heart rate starts going up. What has happened is seeing a fearful situation, our brains have automatically turned on a switch that is there in our brain. That switch flips on over and it begins to send all kinds of messages all the way down our spinal cord into all of our body, all over. The first thing it does is it says, we need to go ahead and start pumping the heart really fast because these girls are taking off and they are running. Mm-hmm. Now, we need to have the heart going really fast because we need to be pumping a whole lot of blood into the legs. If we do not pump enough blood into the legs, they're not going to be able to run. Okay? Yeah. So, first thing that happens is the heart starts going boom, 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 boom. Hearts are going. We turn around and we start running. Running, right? We're running through the woods. We're looking on over and we look on over our back. And sure enough, what has happened is all those lovely people, everything is so gorgeous and lovely and amazing. The saber-tooth tiger has seen them and I'm sorry. Very sorry to say, but they are no longer with us. What we know because of this is those people who have a very rose-colored glasses, everything is lovely in the world, they do not get to continue and pass their DNA on. Right? Now, the people who are a little bit more concerned and a little bit more worried and are possibly like, things could go wrong, we get to pass our DNA on to the next generation. And the next generation, if we can get to the cave.
Right.
And this is why we now know that one thing that we have is our brains are actually wired to automatically go into that thing of what is possibly worst case scenario. Mm-hmm. I have a headache, maybe I have a brain tumor, right? Like the joke goes, right? Going into that. And that is because we've passed that on generation after generation. Those people have a higher chance of surviving than the ones who are not cautious.
Right.
Okay. So, saber-tooth tiger has them, but he doesn't have us. We're taking off. Boom, 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 boom. Heart is going really, really fast. Legs are pumping really fast. What we also know is we need to have enough oxygen in our blood in order to make sure we can keep running. Because if we don't have enough oxygen in our system, we're not going to be able to get all of our muscles to be working together and we're not going to go. So what will happen is people will start getting very, very quick breath. Shallow, quick breath. Now, when we have feelings of anxiety, people will notice that their hearts are starting to race. They will find that they're probably breathing really quick and we're not breathing very deeply. So they also will get this little antsy feeling in their feet. Oh, I just feel like I need to get out of here. I just feel like I need to get out of here. And that is because the brain is saying, run, 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 run. Okay? Right. So it's sending a message, run, 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 run. Legs are going. Heart is pounding. Breath is going. Boom, 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 boom. We're running as fast as we can. Thankfully, the saber-tooth tiger was slowed down, sadly for those other people. But at some point, the saber-tooth tiger looks up and says, oh, look at some more lovely people. And it starts bounding towards us. Now, as we're looking over our shoulder, we see this, and our bodies are thinking, oh my gosh, we got to get to the cave. We have to get to the cave. How are we going to get to the cave? And we're going as fast as we can. So immediately, our brain, and its lovely, wonderful information that it has and its need to keep us healthy, decides, well, we're going to need to do something to get them going faster. So it tries to figure out, how can I get everyone to run faster? I have the heart going as fast as I can do. I have the breath going shallow and quick, trying to get the oxygen. I have the legs going really, really fast. What else can we do to try to speed up the body? I know. Let's start shutting stuff down that we don't need. Okay? Let's start conserving energy. Well, we sure as heck don't need to be eating those berries and digesting them right now. So what will happen is the brain tells the stomach, shut down. Stop digesting food. Stop putting energy into that. We do not need that going on. People will get then this sense of butterflies or a knot in their stomach, a rock sitting there. And that is because the stomach has shut down. If it's shut down, more energy can be going into the rest of the body. So we have our heart is going, our lungs are going, our legs are going, our stomach has shut down, and we're running as fast as we can. But of course, a saber-tooth tiger is very, very fast. So the next thing that our brain says is, oh my gosh, what if it gets so close that it bites Kanae's hand? What if it gets her hand and it starts pulling her hand off? So the body in its ultimate wisdom says, well, we need to move all the blood into all those organs that are right in the very center of the body and make sure that those are taken care of, because that's where all the really important pieces are. But on top of that, if she gets her hand bit and she doesn't have any blood in her hand and her arm, she's not going to bleed to death. And then hopefully Natalie can get her to the cave and bind it off and she will survive. So people get a sensation of tingling in their hands, in their arms, even sometimes in their feet.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because the body is moving all of the blood into the main section of our body.
The life organs.
That's exactly right. So you'll get tingling sensations. You will get the heart going. You get the breath going. You have the stomach that's shutting down. All of these things are happening. Now, on top of that, we don't need to be looking at other berries. We're not taking in the clouds. So people have something what's called a depersonalization sensation that goes on. All of our vision goes from seeing all the stuff around us, and it becomes very, very pinpointed to just straight ahead.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like everything else begins to go away, and all you can think of is get to the cave, get to the cave, get to the cave, get to the cave. And that's the only part of our vision that we begin to see.
Mm-hmm.
People will have that sensation of, oh my gosh, I can't make sense of anything. I don't really see anything else. All I'm thinking about is like, I got to get home or whatever is happening for them. So vision is changing. Heart is changing. Blood is changing. Stomach is changing. We're doing all of these things. The next thing that people will begin to recognize happens is, while our body is doing everything it possibly can to get us running as fast as we can, this tiger is still faster than we are. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So if we can't go any faster, the next best thing is to slow the tiger down.
Mm-hmm.
So the brain begins to think, how in the world can I slow down a saber-toothed tiger? And one of the things that the brain comes up with is, I know, let's lighten the load, and we're going to have Kanae throw up everything that's in her stomach,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we also are going to have Natalie start peeing and pooping everything that's out in her colon and her bladder, and just start letting all of that go. One, it lightens our load,
Mm-hmm.
but more importantly, what it does is it provides a smell, and it also provides something that will divert this animal's attention. Right? So, like, if you see a dog and a dog is walking around and it smells like where another animal has pee, it stops and it looks over there and it smells it, right? And so our bodies know this because we are animals as well. And so our body will get rid of all of that stuff in the hope that it will cause the saber-tooth tiger to stop and go, oh, maybe it dropped a young one or something, right? And it's like looking over there, okay? So people will experience this as, I'm getting anxious, I'm getting upset, and now I have irritable bowel syndrome, or I have to pee all the time. I'm just constantly looking for a bathroom. Again, this is our body thinking it's protecting us by doing this. So we have all of these different things that are going on, right? We have the heart, we have the lungs, we have the vision that's going on, we have our stomach that's stopped, we have the tingling that's going on, we have throwing up, we have the peeing, we have the pooping, we have all of these things that our body is doing to make sure we can get to the cave and we can be there. So we're going. We get to the cave and we push and we push and we push and push. We push our big rock in front of the cave and oh my gosh, we made it. And we take these big, huge, gigantic breaths in. Oh, we're finally safe. And we have these huge breaths that our body takes. As we take these huge, gigantic breaths in, that breath comes into the body. We hold that breath. It presses against our spine. It presses against our vagal nerve. And then we release it. Out. We do that over and over again. And as we do that, it sends a message all the way back up to our brain where that switch went off. And it says, oh, they're safe. Click.
Turn it off.
And it turns it off. And everything in the body begins to start coming back online. Now, it goes off very, very fast. And it needs to go off very, very fast in order to make sure we can stay safe. But it's very traumatic for our body when it goes off very, very quickly. So as everything slowly starts coming back online, the body is not going to instantaneously just throw everything back online because that's traumatic. So it will slowly begin to then move the blood around. It slowly begins to have the breath slow down, the heart rate to slow down. Eventually your stomach will come back online. You'll also find that your bowels will settle down. Your vision will come back in. That also ensures that you're not going to leave your cave for a while, which means if the saber-toothed tiger is hanging outside, it wants to make sure that your body is wanting you not to go out.
Mm-hmm.
So
stay put.
It's going to make you stay put for a while. I always tell people minimum of time is 20 minutes, anywhere for even maybe an hour, right? Before things actually begin to start flowing properly. And then after that, then you may not even really feel like yourself again for another hour. But at that point, then you're like, oh, okay, well, now we're feeling better. So now we'll push our rock. And hopefully by that time, the saber-tooth tiger's given off. It's found something else. Its direction is somewhere else. And again, it has made sure that we have stayed safe.
Yeah, great. I love the way you explain that.
Just so people also know that those are some of the main symptoms that people experience. But of course, with that comes sweating. Temperature change will happen dramatically. Some of the other sensations that will go off is because you're having such a change in your blood pressure and your breathing. You will get ringing in the ears is another common symptom. So all of these, again, are all happening because the brain and the body are wanting to protect you. They are not wanting you to feel miserable. That's not why it's happening.
Right.
But what has happened is our world has changed so dramatically and so quickly, our brains still recognize a lot of stuff. Out there as a saber-toothed tiger, that is not a saber-toothed tiger.
Right. So we are getting close to the end of our time. But what I hear you saying is that, so all of these symptoms, first of all, are primitive. This is our primitive brain remembering what it was like to be a caveman, cavewoman, and remember what it was like to run from a saber-toothed tiger. The brain believes we're still in caveman times, so it does things the same. So if I am having anxiety about a presentation I need to give at work, then my legs might start getting jittery because my heart is beating faster, sending that energy to my legs so that I can run and get the heck out of here and not give that presentation.
Yes.
But this is also why my vision gets tunneled and I'm like, must go home. Or in this case, it might be to the bathroom because my brain is saying, oh my gosh, I got to throw up, which is why when people get like stage fright and that kind of thing, they have to go to the bathroom.
Yes.
Yeah. So all of these symptoms that seem strange or weird, like why are my legs jumping and I'm not going anywhere? Why do I feel like I need to run to the bathroom and I just went to the bathroom? This is really our brain's way of protecting us because this is what it learned to do when it used to guard us from the saber-toothed tigers.
Exactly. And so our brain thinks it is being nice to us. It thinks that it is caring for us. What has happened is it's just mislabeled what is a saber-toothed tiger.
Right. So I give this example a lot because I do want people to understand that anxiety has its place. So even though the saber-toothed tiger is no longer there, the presentation might be the saber-toothed tiger. And then people say, well, there's no reason for me to get that anxious about giving a presentation. There are times when anxiety is healthy and we need anxiety. We just have to know when to use it and how to manage it. So what are some tools that people can use to, one, understand this is something to be afraid of, this is not, but also two, now that I know this is something I don't have to be afraid of, what can I do to manage the anxiety?
So the best thing, and I know people have probably heard this, but they may not understand exactly how to do it, is to work, number one, first on your breathing. So doing the breathing techniques. And people have often heard, oh, I know I'm supposed to breathe deep. It's not necessarily breathing deep. So if you think that you've been running for your life and then you finally get there, that is not a deep breath. That is a huge difference in just taking a deep breath. The first thing that I let people know, and this is not the silver bullet that just stops everything completely. You never have emotions or feelings. And as you said, because they are all necessary, but it does help you to begin the process of shutting all of these systems down that have come online so that you can then do some of the next techniques. So the first thing that I have people do is I let them know what you would like to work on is laying on something hard, flat, like a floor, your bed, but actually laying on the ground. Taking in a very, very deep, 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 long breath, long and deep enough that you can feel your spine pushing into the floor beneath you. Mm-hmm. Once you take that deep breath in, you want to then hold it. Everybody does it a little bit differently. One way to think about it is you can take a deep breath in for a count of 4, you hold it for a count of 4, and then you release that breath out. And usually you want to release the breath out longer than the breath was you took in. So you may take it in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, and then release it for maybe a count of 8. Mm-hmm. You want to do that 3 times. And after you've done it 3 times, you want to just breathe normally. And then you want to do it 3 times. And then you want to breathe normally. And then you want to do it 3 times. Okay. So I tell everybody you want to do 3 threes. Okay. Is the way you do it. Got it. It is not I'm going to take in 2 deep breaths and somehow or other I should be fine. No. Right. It takes a while for that message to get fully on up there. But when you're doing that type of breath and it is pushing against that nerve in your spine and in the front of your belly, as you're doing it, you want to make sure you have your hand on your belly, your hand on your chest. And when you take a deep breath in, you want to see your belly hand rise, not your chest hand rise, okay? So you take that breath in, that will begin to send the message to calm your system down. At that point, that is when you can begin to remind yourself, once your system has started calming down, my body is actually trying to protect me, okay? Now, we often think that all of these things come on when someone is having high anxiety or panic. Really what's happening is we're having a fear response that is getting triggered. And we know that fear response as either fight, flight, and the third part, which is freeze. Mm-hmm. It's only when we check in with our thoughts that we can then begin the next process, which is asking ourselves, what evidence do I have to support this and what evidence do I not? Yes. Because remember, our brains are hardwired to automatically go to our negative, right? Right. Everyone's going to hate us. It's going to be horrible. Our brain does not go automatically to, you're going to be astounding. What are you talking about? Right. So it doesn't start arguing with us best case scenario. It starts arguing our worst case scenario. Yes. And as soon as we recognize, oh, it's doing that because it thinks it's going to protect me. And we say, and what is it really protecting me from? That is when we can begin the next piece of asking ourselves those kind of questions.
Right. And that kind of goes into the cognitive behavioral therapy that you work with. And that is checking in with those maladaptive thoughts and those that just do not serve you, that keep you in that fear when this is actually not a saber-toothed tiger. In fact, this is a little kitten. That is not going to bother you. So you need to be able to differentiate between those. So what I hear you saying is if you have anxiety or if you experience an anxiety, even if you're all the way in it, because I know you said earlier, some people think it's too late. Once you've experienced it, you can't get out of it. But you can by really governing your breath and taking those deep breaths by lying on a floor or a flat surface and really deepening that breath until your belly rises and you can feel your back against the floor. Then that's when you know you took a deep breath, and then doing those counts so that you pause, you breathe in, you pause, and then you breathe out. So that's a start. So start doing your deep breathing. Stop thinking the worst case scenario. Like allow yourself to stop your brain. Say, hey, is this one of those times I should be looking at the saber-tooth tiger running at me, or is this a kitten? So beginning to differentiate between those. And what would you say people are doing well already? Is there something that you notice that you say, well, continue doing that?
So one of the things that we often see people that do really, really well when they are addressing their stress and their anxiety is actually going with it rather than against it. Mm-hmm. And we see this all the time with athletes. Now, if you see someone who's getting ready for the Olympics and let's say they're going to start their run, these people are not just sitting quietly and breathing, right? Now, what are they doing? They're shaking their hands out. They're jumping up and down. So they're shaking out their legs. They're taking those breaths. they are actually working with that and recognizing that it is an energy that they can channel into a way to make them more powerful, to make them more confident, to make them succeed at something that feels like they're not able to succeed. That energy that I have, that people always say, oh my gosh, they had such an energy around them. I could just feel that energy exuding. A lot of that is what we mislabel as anxiety is actually that energy.
Yeah.
I often see that people use that emotion, and you will see that not only with actors and with athletes, but you often see it with presenters. Just knowing that, again, each emotion is there for a reason. Saying that there's something right or wrong with an emotion just ends up shutting down a part of ourselves.
Yeah, that we need to use sometimes. So thank you so much for sharing all that insight, especially the understanding of anxiety. That was a great illustration that I know that people can use. And so if you need to share this episode with somebody you know that has anxiety, please do so. Do you want to give your information so people know how to reach you?
Yes, I do. I work with other therapists. I do teaching where we provide education, not only for, of course, our clients, but we also provide education for other professionals, whether it's a brand new professional who's just coming into the business or seasoned professionals who have been out there for quite a while. And so if anybody is interested and they'd like to reach out to me, I do have a website. My website is my name, Natalie Kohlhaas, LPC.com. And or if you're interested in doing any type of retreats or any type of training, I can also be located at serenitytreehouse.com. And of course, you're always free to call my office, and the office number is 404-542-3502.
Awesome. So we'll put all of that in the episode notes. You guys stay tuned for our 5-minute activation. Natalie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Kanae. It's been a joy.
Yes.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. If you want more love and money conversations, subscribe to this podcast. Also, tell your friends about us. I'll see you next episode. But in the meantime, head on over to KanaeCorder.com for more tips, tools, and resources. And go ahead and leave us a comment if you like. We'd love to hear from you. This show is not to replace professional counsel. The best advice comes from a professional you know. The topics discussed in this podcast are general in nature and are for entertainment and informational purposes only. We encourage you to meet with a professional to discuss your specific situation, whether financial or therapeutic. That's all for now. I'll see you sooner. Remember, no matter what anybody ever tells you, you can have wealth in all of its forms. Believe it, and you will soon see it.